The first time my marriage ended, I watched it happen and couldn't stop it. The second time someone tried to take it from me, I showed up and made sure he understood the difference between a man who doesn't know and a man who does. My name is Wesley Cash. I'm 38, a civil engineer in Springfield, Missouri. And before I tell you what happened in September 2024, you need to know who I was before it. At 26, I married my college sweetheart, Tracy. 3 years later, she left me for Russell Chambers, a car dealership owner twice my age, with money that filled a room before he did. She wasn't cruel about it. She just sat across our kitchen table and said, "I love you. I just need more than this. More than a 29-year-old engineer with a small apartment and a future that hadn't happened yet." I signed the divorce papers and made myself a promise. I would rebuild, and I would never again be the man who lost his wife to someone richer. What I didn't understand yet was that I'd carried the wound forward instead of closing it. By 33, I had the house, the career, the savings account that made me feel anchored. Then I met Vanessa Farrow at a charity dinner, watching her calmly dismantle a city councilman twice her rank in an argument about shelter funding. I thought, that woman is going to be a lot of work and absolutely worth it. I was right on both counts. We married in 2016. Vanessa built a therapy practice from a single office into something that ran on referrals from CEOs and attorneys across the region. She specialized in high-functioning, wealthy clients with addiction and narcissistic patterns. She was exactly as good at holding boundaries as her job demanded. In January 2024, she took on a new client, Conrad Bale, 53, a developer worth $300 to $400 million, twice divorced, brilliant and relentless. In treatment for alcohol dependency he wanted kept quiet. The referring attorney had warned her he had significant blind spots around how he affects people. Polished language for clinical narcissist, a man who'd never once in 53 years been told no by anything money couldn't fix. Vanessa knew the profile. She didn't know yet how far he'd take it. Our life that spring was good in the unflashy way you only notice once it's threatened. Porch swing coffee on Saturdays, hers black, mine 2 sugars, and I never once got it wrong. Sunday grocery runs. Our beagle mix, Eden, asleep at the foot of the bed. Quiet trust, chosen daily. In March, Vanessa came home quieter than usual. Had a session that went sideways, she said, and stood at the sink a long moment before saying nothing else. I didn't press. That night I heard her exhale in the dark, long, controlled. The exhale of a woman managing something she hadn't named yet. By April, Conrad had moved from calibrated flattery, comments that lingered a beat too long, into something unambiguous and sexual. Vanessa shut it down clinically, documented it, said nothing to me. It happened twice more in May. Each time he apologized with practiced sincerity, and each apology was followed by something slightly more forward than before. She recognized the pattern. She'd mapped it in other clients. In late May, she terminated him formally, by the book, written notice, referrals to 2 other practitioners, a clean final session. She believed that was the end of it. The first flower arrangement arrived on a Thursday in June while I was working from home. White orchids, dark roses, an expensive glass vase. The card read, "Vanessa, thinking of you, C." I felt something cold settle behind my sternum. Not jealousy yet, more like an engineer's instinct, running a hand along a surface and finding a crack that shouldn't be there. I asked her about it, neutral, fact-based. She went still for a fraction of a second, brief enough that 6 years earlier I might have missed it. "A former client," she said. "He's not taking it well. I'll handle it." I believed her. I also filed that half-second of stillness away, the way you file a hairline crack in a beam. 2 weeks later, a gourmet gift basket. She opened the card privately and didn't tell me what it said. I noticed. I said nothing. The third delivery cracked something open. A Saturday morning, a small jewelry box, hand-lettered note. "For everything you deserve, Conrad." I carried it to the back porch and stood there breathing, because there's a difference between a confused former client sending flowers once and a man who's learned your home address and handwrites notes on a Saturday. Somewhere in that gap, the ghost of Tracy and Russell Chambers started to stir. "You weren't enough before. What makes you think you're enough now?" Vanessa found me on the porch and told me most of it. The comments, the termination, her belief it was over. Not everything. She was protecting me from my own history, and it backfired, because half-truths leave gaps the imagination fills with the worst material available. "How wealthy is this man?" I asked. "Very." I went quiet for 2 days, not angry, not accusing, just carrying something I hadn't handed to anyone. Vanessa knew exactly what that silence meant, and instead of pushing, she called her closest friend, Gloria Howell, and told her everything. Conrad, the escalation, the gifts, and, quietly, on a phone call, her fear of what this silence was doing to me. "He's gone quiet. You know what that means." Gloria did. What Vanessa didn't know was that Gloria had already decided to do something about it. In August, we found out Conrad had run a background investigation on me. He knew about Tracy, about Russell Chambers, about exactly the shape of the wound he was pressing on. A second flower delivery arrived with a note implying an intimacy that didn't exist, framed to look, to an outside observer, like something it wasn't. He was betting that if I saw it cold, my history would do the rest of his work for him. In the silence I'd built around myself, he was slowly winning. Vanessa needed him on record, not as his therapist, that protection no longer applied, but as a private citizen confronting a harasser. Missouri law let her record a conversation she was party to, without his consent. Her plan, meet him somewhere he'd suggested himself, let his ego read it as an opening, let him talk himself into a confession, bring the tape home, prove nothing had happened, prove the man threatening our marriage wasn't a rival but a predator. She told me she was taking an overnight trip with Gloria, nothing more. She didn't want me anywhere near Conrad until she had what she needed. What she didn't know was that Gloria had already picked up the phone and called me. It was a Tuesday morning in mid-September. I was at my desk reviewing drawings when Gloria said, "I need you to listen carefully and not make a single decision until I'm finished." Then she told me everything, not just what Vanessa had shared with me, but all of it, the full escalation. The background investigation built specifically to weaponize my divorce. The fact that Vanessa had been shielding me, because she understood exactly what this could reopen. "She's going to that lake tomorrow to get him on tape," Gloria said. "She doesn't want you there." "But Wesley, I think she's wrong. A recording is evidence. A husband showing up and telling him there are consequences is a message. Men like Conrad have never had anyone look them in the eye and say that. A recording starts a legal process that drains years out of you. You showing up ends it the same day." "Does Vanessa know you're calling me?" "No, but she will, and I think she'll understand why." I made a decision that day that mirrored the one I'd made 11 years earlier in a law office parking lot, except this one wasn't about surviving something. It was about refusing to let anyone use my history as a weapon against what was mine. I called Derek Price, an old college roommate now working private security, and told him what I needed. Wednesday, September 11th, 2024, I drove to Table Rock Lake. Derek was already parked near the entrance to the Osprey, a lakeside restaurant with a wide deck built over the water, good sightlines, enough ambient noise for a conversation to feel private without being private. A small body camera sat on his lapel. "She's inside," he said. "Outdoor deck. Recorder's active in her bag. She doesn't know we're here." I didn't feel rage walking across that parking lot. Rage is for men who've run out of options. I felt clarity, the particular kind that comes when every variable's been accounted for and all that's left is execution. I walked past the hostess, out onto the deck, and saw them. Vanessa leaning forward, composed but tense in the shoulders. Conrad across from her, large, silver-haired, expensively unhurried, occupying the space like a man who'd never once been told no. Vanessa saw me first, and went still so completely that Conrad turned mid-sentence. I pulled out the chair beside my wife, not across from him, and sat. "You must be the husband," he said, recalibrating. "Wesley Cash. And you're Conrad Bale. This is a private meeting." It was. Now it's a different kind. I didn't raise my voice. Stillness, from a man who isn't afraid, does more work than volume ever could. "You've been sending gifts to my home, writing notes designed to look like something they're not, because you did a background check and found out about my first marriage. You thought if you applied pressure to the right place, the foundation would crack." I let that sit. The flaw in your plan is you misread the load-bearing capacity. You were expecting a man who broke once and never healed. You got a man who broke once, rebuilt, and made sure nothing breaks the same way twice. Conrad's jaw tightened, but his eyes kept calculating an angle. What you did in those sessions is documented in her clinical notes. There's no therapeutic privilege protecting you anymore. She terminated you months ago. That makes it accessible in a civil claim. The gifts, the notes, the delivery records, that's a pattern of harassment following termination. Combined, that's the foundation of a lawsuit I will file in Greene County, and I'll make sure every business publication in this state covers it before the first hearing. I paused. And the background investigation you ran on me, specifically to exploit psychological vulnerabilities to destabilize my marriage, I've already discussed that with an attorney too. I leaned in, just slightly. I know what you are, Conrad. I'm not angry. I don't have the energy for anger at men like you. But hear this clearly. My wife is not available to you. My marriage isn't a structure you get to dismantle. If you send one more thing to my house, make one more attempt at contact, or use anyone as a proxy, I will spend whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, to make sure everyone in your professional and personal life knows exactly what you are. Not because I'm vindictive, because you'll have made it necessary. The deck went quiet. A boat passed in the distance. Conrad studied me for a long moment. Not remorse. He wasn't built for that, but recognition. An obstacle he couldn't move, and a practical man's decision to redirect. He stood, buttoned his jacket, glanced at Vanessa, and walked off without another word. Derek gave me a small nod. Everything had been captured, clean and full. Then it was just Vanessa and me, the lake moving behind her shoulder. "How?" she asked. "Just that. Gloria." She closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were close to tears, the kind that live right at the edge of composure in people who work hard to keep it. I told her not to. She made the call she thought was right. She was right. Wesley, I was so scared. Not of him. I could handle him. I was scared of what this was doing to you. After Tracy, I didn't know how to bring you the full picture without watching it reopen something that took you years to heal. I know all of it now, I said, taking her hands. I'm not the man I was in 2013, and he's not in this story anymore. What you were doing here today was protecting our marriage. That's what this was. I should have trusted you with the whole picture. I went quiet when I should have asked. We both did some version of the wrong thing with the right intention. That's just marriage. Two people who love each other making imperfect decisions under pressure. We sat on that deck another hour, ordered coffee, and actually talked, the way we hadn't in weeks. Every time the old fear tried to stand up in my chest, I named it. That's the old wound. This is not that situation. This is my wife who fought for us at a lake in the Ozarks while I sat in the dark. That distinction mattered. Conrad went silent completely. No more gifts, no calls, no proxies. Whether it was Derek's recording, the threat of litigation, or a rich man simply recalculating around something that wouldn't yield, I don't know, and I don't particularly care. He redirected. Good. Gloria told Vanessa about the call that same evening. Vanessa's first response was a long silence. Her second was, I should be irritated with you. Her third, I'm so glad you did it. Gloria, incapable of false modesty, said, I know. By October, life on West Walnut Street had its rhythms back. Saturday coffee, Sunday grocery runs, ribeye night at our usual table, where they still knew our names. We added a marriage counselor, not from crisis, but because two people who'd nearly let silence cost them everything owed themselves the work. Vanessa rebuilt her intake process, clearer boundaries, faster escalation protocols, conversations with her licensing board about reporting options. She doesn't just survive things, she systematizes them. As for me, I refinished the porch swing last spring, 2 coats of dark walnut stain. Vanessa says it looks better than it ever has. She's right. Some structures, maintained properly, don't just hold. They improve.